SABC reporter Aldrin Sampear covered SACP 14th Party Congress and he now joins us via Skype. Aldrin, thank you so much for joining us. Can you give us a brief outline of the day's proceedings?
Well, good evening, Lulu. The Congress only starts tomorrow, which is a Tuesday. That's when the Congress will kick off. And then what happened today was that we were focusing on the SACP's press conference, looking into the 5-day-long conference or Congress that will be taking place. And some of the highlights that came out of that press briefing were issues around the state of the alliance, and the party saying that the alliance is currently at its weakest. But quite interestingly, though, they still maintain that the SACP will remain in the ANC-led alliance, even though there is calls within the party for the SACP to contest the elections independently. It seems as though that if you listen to that soundbite that just played from Jeremy Cronin, the first deputy Secretary General of the party, he speaks about that they shouldn't be making decisions. They shouldn't be making too many decisions at this point with regards to the 2019 elections, which almost sounds as though that the SACP is doing an about turn on this issue, because they have been threatening that they will be contesting the elections independently. However, though, that's of course a decision that the Congress will need to take, and that's this Congress that will be sitting now for the next 5 days that will need to decide on the issues around the party. For instance, in the discussion document, there is one discussion that looks into the party and state power. And back in 2005 already, there had been a proposal that the SACP contest the elections independently. However, though, one can see that certainly 12 years later, there's still no decision yet on whether the SACP will contest the elections independently. Jeremy Cronin, for instance, spoke about how the state of the ANC, and says that there's no doubt whatsoever that the ANC will collapse. He says all indications are that the ANC will collapse, and what then happens when the ANC collapses? And I guess that's when the SACP will be coming in as an alternative, but not as just an alternative party, also looking at a structure like a united forum, not that it will just be the SACP.
Now, Aldrin, are we likely to see major contests with regards to the positions of the leadership within the SACP? We saw that, I think, earlier in their press briefing, Jeremy Cronin spoke of the fact that he'd been in that role for 22 years. And, there was talk about Aldrin Sampear as SG and Solima Paile. Just take us through that and what their response was with regards to their positions in the leadership and what's going to happen going forward.
Well, certainly. Jeremy Cronin, for instance, spoke about how he has been in this position for 22 years. And then on the other hand, you have the likes of Aldrin Sampear, who's also been in this position since 1998, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a while since the likes of Aldrin Sampear has been in this position. And many have criticized him. They said that Aldrin Sampear, being at the helm of the SACP, has led the SACP to where it finds itself now, where the SACP is irrelevant. Jeremy Cronin, on the other hand, saying that it's a good thing to renew and revive the SACP, and he has been there for a while. So it'd be great to bring in a new crop of leaders. And as he was mentioning that, you look at Aldrin Sampear, who was standing, or rather sitting right next to him. And Aldrin Sampear, one could only wonder what was going through his mind at the time when Jeremy Cronin kept on emphasizing about getting in new leadership and so forth. However, though, they did also counter this by arguing that when you have new leadership that comes in, there must also be a sense of stability and continuity, which means that some of those who are in the leadership at the moment, like the likes of the Secretary General or the General Secretary, Aldrin Sampear, that they should also be there and remain in those positions, so that you don't have an entire overhaul of the party's leadership. Aldrin Sampear, on the other hand, defending, his decision not to decline a re-election. And you just listened to Solima Paile also this afternoon speaking about why he's not contesting Aldrin Sampear, saying that it is in the interest of unity that is decided not to contest Blade in Nzimande. I was just reading an article earlier on from Daily Maverick speaking about Solly Mapaila and saying that, the likes of Solly Mapaila, because he's very young, he's quite militant, he speaks truth to power, and he's shown that he's not scared of the big dogs. He's not scared of the ANC or the ANC's leader, President Jacob Zuma. He has spoken out against the ANC and spoken out certainly against President Jacob Zuma. He's probably one of President Jacob Zuma's biggest critics publicly in the entire alliance as it stands at the moment.
Now, Aldrin, very quickly, in terms of the Congress that's starting tomorrow for the next 5 days, in terms of what's going to happen, can you just give us a breakdown very quickly?
Well, what will happen is that will be 5 days. There will be commissions sitting down and certain reports that will be tabled and discussions, for instance, around the state of the economy, radical economic transformation as well. Those are some of the things that will be touched on. But quite interestingly, what the SACP has done this time around is that they've decided to invite the academics. If you remember that the South African Council of Churches had a report on state capture, which was compiled by academics, and that report will now be tabled at this COSATU, or rather at this SACP event. Solly Mapaila also saying that this is the first time that they're allowing somebody from outside to come and give a presentation at a Congress. So this is quite interesting, and it definitely points to the issue around state capture and how seriously the SACP takes this matter.
Now, Aldrin, I know I said it was the last question, but finally, very quickly, the issue of the MK-MVA not attending the Congress. What's the issue there? Did they give any reasons to them not being present at the Congress, the SACP Congress?
Well, they have been invited. The SACP obviously has invited alliance members as well as its structures as well to be part of this Congress. However, though, this morning, the MK-MVA issued a statement saying that based on principle, they've decided not to attend the Congress, and they're comparing the SACP to COSATU, saying that they are failing to follow the party lines in terms of the alliance and respecting the alliance partners, speaking specifically about the ANC and the letter that they wrote. This is now the SACP wrote to the ANC saying that the representative that the ANC is going to bring through to this Congress must not be President Jacob Zuma. Now, you remember that COSATU has also taken a similar stance, that President Jacob Zuma is barred from speaking at the events, I guess also participating at COSATU events, and now the SACP has taken the same stance as well, and that's the reason why the MKMVA is saying that they will not be attending this Congress. However, though, on a more lighter note, they wish the Congress and its delegates all the best.
Aldrin, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to leave it there for now. That was our reporter, Aldrin Sampear, giving us a brief breakdown of the SACP Party Congress taking place in Boksburg for the next 5 days.